Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Logical Nonsense Podcast, episode 116. We are live. From now on, we will be going live for every single podcast. So that way I can get you guys the live review reaction of whatever is happening going on within the sports or hip hop world. Today, we have a loaded one for you. We have starting off with just me. I will be reviewing about 4 or 5 albums, and then we'll be segueing into NFL over under wins. I've gone through every single team and done a playoff machine to get my over under wins. I felt like that was the best strategy to really get my over under wins because it's really easy to say, oh, that team's over or under without actually looking at their schedule week by week. So definitely some surprises in there, but let's hop right into these album reviews, starting first with the JID album. I think this album was really solid. I was actually surprised to see something that I always do is I always make sure that I listen to an album at least once, maybe twice, maybe three times before I ever read any sort of reviews or get any sort of opinion, maybe on TikTok, just so I can fully understand what my opinions are and not be influenced by some of the bigger creators of and their opinions on hip hop. So I wanted to make sure that I got my own opinion before releasing before looking at other people's opinions. So I did that, and I was actually very shocked at how many people were not a fan of this album. There was a lot of opinions out there that stated that this album was kind of boring, that it was kind of monotonous, and I think it's really interesting because he had some of the best lyricism on this album. And that's something to say. I think the only album that I would say has better lyricism is probably his previous album, which is The Forever Story. But I think that's a delivery thing. And I also think this album's so young, this could outlive it. Something that I'll get into later is I think something with JID is his albums kind of have to take a few listens to really understand and grasp how this will live. I think his are so replayable, and I think it's really easy to listen to a JID album that first listen and be like, that's not hitting the spot like I want it to. Whereas it really does if you just give it some time. Because there's definitely been songs that off first listen, I was like, it's okay. But now I'm like really bumping and really enjoy and appreciate what he's done on each individual song. So, but as always, the way we do it here when we rate albums. So we will start with lyricism. Kind of mentioned it earlier, but it's very funny to me, as I mentioned, being too lyrically driven. People and the reviews I've read said that he was too self-conscious about not making a bad bar or being too conscious of what he should say and being so perfectly driven on every. Why is that a bad thing? Why are we coming at this guy for being particular in what he says and meticulous in what he says in each single bar? Because I think that's awesome. I think that's great that he is being lyrically driven by every single bar. I thought he established great storytelling throughout it. I thought, he really told the stories of, it's JID against the world. I thought his lyricism, especially on Community, where him talking about basically, I don't give a shit about these other rappers and their beef. It doesn't matter to me. I really truly just want to focus on what I do and what my crew is doing within that. So I thought that was really interesting. But I think, this album is super meaningful. I don't think it's oversaturated by any means when it comes to lyricism. And when it comes to lyricism, I think I'm going to rate this an 8.6. 8.6 I think is extremely fair for this album. Like I said, I don't think it's anywhere near The Forever Story, but I still think this is still one of JID's solid albums, and I again don't understand the hate it's getting from a lot of the reviewers. Um, across the media. I think this album is really solid from start to finish. And like I said, as I continue to listen to it and continue to process it, the better it gets. And that leads me into production. I thought the production did a great job of really setting the tone, setting the atmosphere for this album. It complements a lot of the lyricism and a lot of the flows that JID delivers throughout this album. And I think there's a variety of sounds within this. There's a lot of versatility. You get a lot of range of emotions, a lot more of those, grimier southern beats versus also you get these more slowed down melodic feel songs, such as No Boo, Wholeheartedly, of Blue, and even there are what I love about this album too is there's a lot of beat switches. So like for example on Of Blue or even the first song, when you have You Ugly, these are songs where you start to see uh these beat switches, but they're not excessive, and I don't think they're like unnecessary. I think a lot of production nowadays there's these unnecessary beat switches that I don't think are useful to it. Excuse me, my light's tweaking a little bit. Um, but for production, like I said, I really enjoyed it. I thought it really did a great job of setting the tone throughout the album. For production, I'm going to give this an 8.9 out of 10. Going to glorious flows or flows. I thought, I mean, it's hard to not give JID a almost near perfect score when it comes to flows. I think his versatility when it comes to flows is like one of the best in the game. He just has so many capabilities, and I feel like each album he continues to tap into levers that we haven't seen him utilize in the past. I really enjoyed his melodic side on this album. We saw a little bit of it on the Forever Story. We've seen touches of it even in DiCaprio 2, and the Never Story. So we've seen it before, but I felt like towards the later half of this album, we really saw it. And then we also saw something completely opposite where he just goes in, and that start of the song and Community, I really, really enjoyed listening to him kind of give an FU attitude. It was fun to hear. It's something I'm not used to. And if you haven't heard that song yet, I think it's something that's really interesting. It was an interesting collaboration with him and Clipse. So I really enjoyed it. We're seeing more and more versatility and him tapping into that. So for that, I'm gonna give him a 9.2 out of 10. Just because I was so impressed with his versatility of flows within this album. Going to immediate hits, Jit Style seems to be more of a true hip hop head. He's not that poppy style. He doesn't have those hits, like a Drake or even I would say somebody on his team like J. Cole. He just doesn't really have those hits that are like going to be played on the radio. However, when you look at his realm of audience, I think there's definitely hits within his realm of audience of those hip hop heads. So I think there's a lot of great hits, a lot of hits that I continue to add to my playlist. I love Community. I love G's VCRs with Vince Staples. I thought was great. Wholeheartedly with Ty Dolla Sign and Black. And then on or Of Blue with Mariba was also very solid. There's a bunch of really great work within this album if you haven't checked it out, so you got to check it out. What rates it a little less for me is I do think there are some misses. I was not a fan of the collaboration with Ciara and Earth Gang, which I was a little disappointed just because I do enjoy a lot of the collaborations with Earth Gang, but it's just a very you could tell this was kind of his experimenting song. I personally it wasn't my liking, but I could see why somebody would like it if that makes sense. But there's some other songs as well that I was just not a huge fan of. I think there was a little bit more filler than we saw in his last album. So going to content matter, I thoroughly enjoyed Jid's performance, and respectfully, I think people need to let this album settle a little bit before giving their opinion. I think, within, and I'm guilty of this too because there's songs that I have rated low, and then I let play on and end up enjoying them. But I think we are so quick to give our opinion off of first listen of how an album is or how, you know, well it will do within the media. And I think we need to let it settle before we truly give our opinion because at first listen, I can kind of understand maybe why it's too boring or too lyrically dense, but even first listen, I thought it was dope. So I don't really understand. I'll be very curious, a year from now, how people perceive this album. But I continue to appreciate his work. For that, I'll give it an 8.2. For a total score of, let me get my calculator out. So 8.6 plus 8.9 plus 9.2 plus 7.1 plus 8.2 divided by 5 for a total score of 8.4. Very solid album from top to finish. Going to our next album, I've got Don't Tap the Glass. I felt like Don't Tap the Glass was a really, really fun album. I really didn't know what to expect, especially when, he gets online and he says, "This is not a concept album. Do not expect anything great." You don't really know what that means. There's a lot of things that could mean. There's a lot of different ways artists can go in that, and so it was very interesting to me to hear him say that. But I think this album from start to finish was really fun to listen to. Something we needed. I felt like, at this time we really did not have a ton of great albums out within the hip hop world. This was this fun, didn't really have to think about it. You could just kind of listen, tune in, enjoy it, and dance. That's exactly what he wanted you to do. So starting off with lyrics, it's not a lyrical album. So like I appreciate it for what it is. It's not a concept album. It's not meant to be a concept album, but I still think there is some sort of like feeling you get when you listen to this album, which I think is the difference between his not concept album and a lot of other artists. Like he still understands the difference between an album and a collection. So but there's still a lot of grimy lyrics. They don't mean much. There's not a lot of like surface, double entendres, anything like that. But there's a lots of jabs and a lot of like, fuck you attitude to most of his album when it comes to lyrics. So I'll give lyrics a 7. Going to On Point production, this is probably some of my favorite production I have heard all year long when it comes to production. Don't Tap the Glass, very upbeat. It's undeniably fun. I think, he said he wanted to make you dance. You'll hear it within his words of in his theme, him saying that he wants to make you dance. And I think it did exactly that. He had me, dancing around in my chair or my car all the time. I mean, I still dance around. I think the production is super fun, and I think something we forget to appreciate about Tyler is he is the one making his production. And it's so hard as an artist to not only produce your own music, but also rap over the top of it or, perform over the top of it. And so I think he just understands how to complement his own voice, how to complement his own raps. And I just love the infusion of Daft Punk. I thought that was a super cool touch because Punk has a ton of influence within music in all genres. And for him to kind of tap into that, which is kind of funny that I'm saying don't tap into that, but tap into that was really cool in my opinion. Going into flows, there's a lot of catchy hooks in this, lots of catchy choruses. Um, but he also still shows this like ferocious ability to rap, especially on songs like Big Poe, on Stop Playing With Me, on the second half of Don't Tap the Glass, slash Tweakin'. So I think his versatility is shown throughout. He always does a good job of showing that versatility. It's such a short album. It's hard to be like, oh wow, the flows were so amazing. Or there's a lot of singing, and I don't know I don't know if that's a plus or a minus when it comes to flow. So I'm gonna give flows an 8. I gave production a 9.4. I don't think I mentioned that. So going to immediate hits, I think this is filled with hits. I think probably the album that's filled with the most hits that I've heard so far this summer. So many hits. I mean, as you can see with how many songs are downloaded onto my playlist, it's just loaded, and even the songs that aren't, a lot of people love. So this is an album. It's such a short album that I can listen to this start to finish on my way to work, anything like that. So um, for me, that gets an 8.7. Finishing off with content matter, I say don't overthink this project. I'm typically a concept guy. I'm typically the guy that loves a really deeper meaning, but it doesn't need that. And I think you know with this album and then what we saw with G and X as well, we're starting to see that you can still enjoy an album without those deeper meanings or deeper concepts, as long as they in my opinion, as long as they have some sort of feeling to them. So I think it's awesome to kind of see that shift towards that, which gets an 8.8 out of 10 for a total score of 42 and a total score of 8.4. I believe my other one was very close to that as well. So very, very similar albums, different albums, but similar in scores. So going to Alfredo 2, really also enjoyed this album. I think Freddie Gibbs and The Alchemist delivered on their second album together. I think I still like the first Alfredo, but I think it is so hard to follow up on an album that's so praised. A lot of people think that Alfredo, the first Alfredo, was the best album of the 2020s for hip hop, and I definitely see the argument. I don't think this one passes it, but I think there are some absolutely highs on this album. And so let's get into it. Starting with lyricism, Freddie with his style of rap is he's always going to deliver on lyricism. I think he had some really sharp bars from line to line, and I think he did a really great job of storytelling, like he always does, especially on tracks like Lemon Pepper Steppers, Mar-a-Lago, Shinny Shug too. I Still Love Her. Um, as well as a song like Lavish Habits, John Claude. There's such good storytelling. You just gotta really dig deep and understand, because I think it's kind of hard to get, or I think sometimes you get kind of lost in his flows because they're so intense and they're so nice and smooth and jazzy, that it's hard to kind of pay attention to what he's really saying. So, going to production, I mean, it's The Alchemist. What can you expect? Of course, he did a great job. He provided. What I was worried about this album is that it was just going to give me the exact same feel, the exact same kind of nuance and sound that Alfredo, the first one, had, and it didn't. It brought a lot of new exciting beats, even on songs like 1995 and Skinny Shug 2, which are obviously sequels to the 1985 and Skinny Shug that we saw in the first Alfredo. Uh, those songs have cool twists, similar sounding production, but different and really unique. So I think Alfredo did a great job. I think these two together, just something connects. They have great chemistry. That jazziness with Freddie Gibbs' kind of harsh, hardcore voice, I think works, and I think is why Alfredo 1 and Alfredo 2 have been so successful and critically acclaimed because of how they mixed together. So going to Glorious Flows, like I just said, I mean, it's really easy to get lost in Freddie Gibbs's flows because they are just ferocious. They're incredible. They're smooth. It's so fun to listen to him just go in on a verse. I think very similar to JID. It's when he gets going, there's very few who can keep up. I will say, like, he's gotten better at his melodic stuff, but it's not a strong suit, and I think he it's something that it's just not who he is as an artist, and I think you have to kind of take that in consideration when you're ranking his flows. So for that, I'll give him an 8.8. Going to immediate hits, Ensalada and I Still Miss Her might be contenders for like my top 5 songs of the year. I genuinely think like Ensalada is number 1 for me right now. Like it is catchy. Anderson Paak's feature on it is absolutely incredible. I don't know how you could not enjoy that song. It is just it is incredible, and Freddie Gibbs raps his ass off on it, and then you get um I Still Miss Her, is also just or Lover, not Miss Her. I Still Love Her is an absolutely incredible song too, kind of slow it down, but I love it as well. So definitely some hits, underground hip hop for sure. But if you can appreciate this, there are 100% some really really good hits. So for that, I'll give a 8.3 out of 10. Content matter overall, really solid from top to bottom. Like I said, not as good as Alfredo one, but still a really, really solid project and one I think is definitely worth your time listening to. So for that, I will give a solid 8.1 for a total score of give me one sec. And an 8.3 for the total album. So really solid album. Make sure you go check it out. And our next album that I have on the docket is Jackboys 2. A very interesting album. Obviously another sequel. Um, I was not as big of a fan as this one. We talk. I've mentioned three really solid albums with JID's God Does Like Ugly, Don't Tap the Glass, and Alfredo 2, and now we take a step back. Jackboys 2 just did not deliver. I think there's some good highs. I don't want to rate it because I don't think it'd be a very high score, and I don't like hating on music like that. But the highs, I think we see Don Toliver have a really good performance throughout this album. I think Champagne and Vacay, he does a good job. 2000 Excursion, he does a good job. Um, I think he even does a good job on songs where it's just him, like Can't Stop. But besides that, I mean, it's not great. Sofago is not it. I really don't like Sofago whatsoever. I don't think he deserves to be on another album. And that might be kind of harsh, but I think it's true. I just don't think he's that talented whatsoever. And but there are some highs as well, pretty or PBT is a great song. I enjoyed 2000 Excursion, like I said, Champagne and Vacay, Beep Beep, no comments. There's some good highs, but overall, I think this kind of disappointed or fell short of what a lot of people expected from the sequel of Jack Boys. Um, and that's kind of it in terms of album reviews. So I'm really excited to see what is coming out. I know there's some other albums, including Let God Sort 'Em Out that came out, and I did listen to Let God Sort 'Em Out, but I think um I would need to kind of dive in deeper. There's a lot of lyricism that I think I would need to understand fully um to kind of grasp and understand like um what Clipse is doing. I loved So Be It. That's a great, great song and a great diss track, but there's a lot of untapped lyricism that I can tell. But I think, for 40-year-olds, it's a very solid album, and you can't discredit what they did on that album. So we'll see if we get a Baby Keem album. It feels like things have started heat up as of late. I know a lot of people including myself, have been kind of complaining on how big of a miss this is this year on hip hop, and I think we finally got some good albums to represent. So, Kaden's supposed to be hopping on here for just a sec, and here he is, Mr. Kaden. We are live, brother.
Yes, sir. Hello,
How you doing?
fans of the Logical Nonsense podcast. I am great. Yourself?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. We're gonna be doing NFL over-unders. It's always a good time of year when we are doing over-under wins. Cade, first, though, I just got done doing some album reviews. What do you think of the JID album?
I like the JID album. I think it's been mixed reviews from what I've seen so far, but the way I've seen it is like more fans of JID really like his album and appreciate it, but then more just people that kind of listen to music widespread are kind of hating on it, which like I know we talked a little bit, we didn't really understand too much of the hate, but I thought there were some interesting features. I thought there was some good stuff, and I don't think it was supposed to be kind of just a banger album for him, but overall I liked it, and I thought he had some good pieces, and he brings the flows. So I'm not a hater. I added a couple songs. So
Yeah, no, I don't really understand the hate. I also think JID for me is one of those people who kind of have to let it like sit and digest. Like because I've played it a few times now, and I'm like, I didn't like that one at first, but now I do. Like that song's good. You know what I'm saying? So I think sit, give it time. But all right, well we've got 32 teams to go over. I did my playoff scenario today to get my wins for each team. So that'll help me. But let's start with the Arizona Cardinals over under 8.5 wins. Give the case.
So first off, I want to preface and say that I thought the lines this year were a lot more accurate than they were last year when we did this. I thought it was a lot more difficult when I was going through some of these teams. So I know there's going to be a lot of teams that will go through where there's cases on both ends. I thought the lines were pretty tight this year, but for the Cardinals, I have them under. I think the emergence of the Niners being good again and the NFC getting a little bit better this year, puts them under 8. I think they're around there last year. So I don't really see them improving over that, but I think they're probably a 6, 7, 8 win team this year.
Yeah, so I also had them under. I have them right at 8 wins. Based off of the way I went throughout the season, I actually have the NFC West in a pretty tight race from 2 to 4. So I have them right at 8 wins. I just don't think they're a team that's really capable that we've seen that is like taking that next step. It feels like they add weapons to their offense, but their defense gets worse or vice versa every year. So like I do think their offense will probably be better this year, but like is the defense any better this year? I don't really think so. And I think defense really does matter in this type of division. So I have them right at 8 wins. So let's go to the Atlanta Falcons over under 7.5 wins.
This one's tough for me, and we probably disagree here because I have them under. I don't believe the Falcons next year. I don't know what they're going to do at the quarterback, right? It's a Penix show. How's he going to perform? Is the defense going to be able to stay injury free? Because we saw how elite they were to start last year and how they fell off. They play in an easier division, so I could see a case for over. But I'm just not a firm believer in the Falcons. So I think under for me is where I'm going to go with them.
So I actually do agree with you. I have the under as well. It's hard to believe in any NFC South team, to be honest with you. Besides the Bucks, I do believe in the Bucks, but the Falcons, to me, I get worried with a full season with Michael Penix Jr. We'll see how he does. I think they'll be a decent team. I think they'll be one of those frisky teams that might pull off a few upsets, but I have them right at 7 wins. I think 7.5 is a good line for them. I could see them being an 8-win team. I could see them being a 7-win team, but I don't see them being a playoff team. So I have them right at 7 wins. I think again, same story as last year. I think the offense is great. I think they have some good weapons with Bijan Robinson, Drake London. We'll see about Kyle Pitts, but overall, I think this team is a little overrated and a little overhyped. Once again, I think the defense still has struggles. I know they try to go get some help with their rookies on defense, but there's been some quietness within these preseason games with those rookies. So we'll see like how they perform when the real game comes. So, all right, well, let's go to our next team, the Baltimore Ravens, which will be an interesting one at 11.5 wins.
For me, I still chose the over for them. I don't think they got any worse. They even added some defensive pieces, which it just seems like all these, top end free agent players just fall into the Ravens' lap every year on defense. So, we saw where they were last year, and they didn't take any step back. So for them to go, under 11.5 to me, being one of the top teams in the AFC, is just kind of ridiculous. So I think they're a 12, 13 win team next year.
Yeah, so we haven't disagreed so far, which is kind of scary because this typically happens between you and I, but I also had them over. I actually had them at 13 wins, which, it might seem high, but like going through their schedule, there's just not a lot of teams where I'm like, are they really going to lose that? I just feel like the Ravens are a very, very solid team on both sides of the ball. Lamar's coming off a season where you could argue he could have won MVP. I think their running back game is still solid. Zay Flowers continues to look better. Their receiving core looked better last year. We'll see about the tight ends. Defensively, I think their defense is still really solid. I think there's, improvements maybe in the secondary a little bit, but overall, I just don't see this team taking that big of a step back, especially when I look at the Browns and a Steelers team that is led by Aaron Rodgers, which I know we'll get to both of those teams, but I'm feeling uneasy about two of those teams, which usually means that somebody in that division is going to dominate, and I think the Ravens are going to dominate. So, and also like if you want to talk about a team more, let me know. So, all right, well, let's go to the Buffalo Bills, which line is at 12.5, which is kind of high, but let's hear what you have.
Yeah, it is the highest out of every team on this list, but it's still the Bills. And I'm going to bring up the same point that you just said about the Ravens. When looking, they have a tough schedule, but they don't lose to teams that are worse than them.
True.
Right. So, and I don't see 4 or 5 teams that are better than the Bills. So, just based on that, and, they added defensive players. I think Josh Allen has a point to prove this year, and he's, he won the MVP, but now it's Super Bowl or bust for the Bills. So I think they win 14-15 in the regular season. So I have the over for them.
So I had the over as well, but it's just barely. I had them at 13 wins. They do have a tough schedule. I do think they're gonna fall to some teams, but like you said, I think they're gonna take care of business at the end of the day. And what am I talking about here? It's 13-4. That's a pretty damn good record. So I agree with you. I think the Bills, similar situation. Like I don't think they got worse. Did they get better? Maybe. I don't know, but I definitely don't think they got worse. And looking at how well put together this team was, even though they didn't have the most weapons, I'm still feeling pretty confident about this team. So under Josh Allen's helm, it's hard to doubt him. I mean, he just continued to prove that it doesn't matter who's around him, he's going to lead this team. So I've got the over. I could see this team winning 15 games. I could see this team winning 11 games, but they're definitely making playoffs. I would be shocked if they don't. So, all right. Well, let's go to the Carolina Panthers. This one's interesting. 6.5 wins.
I debated this one for a little bit.
I did too.
And it's because the Panthers aren't a team anymore that you're like, oh, easy win on the schedule. Bryce Young at the end of last year proved that he can be an NFL quarterback. Now that he's got some experience. That we finished the season last year. They had a really good offseason. I thought they had a pretty good draft. And it's just tough because they play in a bad division. So they can easily steal 2 from the Saints, steal some from the Falcons. I still think they're under 6.5. I think they're probably right at 6 if I were to think about it. So I have them under, but they're a team that you don't want to face, right? I think they could upset a lot of teams. So, and they could even shoot up to 8, if they had a really good season and figured it out. So, but I do have the under here.
Yeah, I still have not disagreed with you. I also had the under. I think I might have discredited this team a little bit, just because I think this offense is a lot better than I think I might be giving them credit for. especially with we'll see how Ted McMillan. It's so hard to judge a team when they have so many young pieces with Xavier Legette and Ted McMillan and Adam Thielen. I know is still on the team, but then you also have Bryce Young at the helm, so it's really tough to know how all the pieces are going to fall. But like you said, I mean, they're in a weak division. Anything could happen. I wouldn't be shocked if we're sitting here there's always that surprise team that's sneaking into the playoffs, and I wouldn't be surprised if Panthers are that team, but for now I still have the under. They're going to have to prove it to me. So all right, going to the Chicago Bears. This one might be my boldest take, so go ahead.
Okay, no, you go first. You got a bold take. Let's see if I.
So my bold take is not the bold take that you probably think. I have a bold take in the negative direction. My bold take is that I have the under. The Bears have a really hard schedule this year. Going through their playoff gauntlet, I was kind of shocked at how many teams I was I don't think they're winning that one. I don't think they're winning that one. I don't think they're winning that one. And I think it's because they played in such a hard division last year that they were matched up with some hard teams. But I like Ben Johnson. It's not that I don't believe in this team. I just think they're going to be one of those teams that's really frisky that doesn't do as well as they should. That maybe, I don't know, what was that team a few years back that it felt like they were losing by 1 or 2 points every game, but they had a bad record. I can't remember. You know what I'm talking about?
No, yeah. They lost 7 games within a score.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
Can't remember. But anyways, that's how I see them this year.
Might as well just do this podcast solo and just put featuring me because we have all the same points. Because I gave the Bears 5 wins when I did my thing. Because you and I are in agreement. They play in the toughest division in the NFC. Yeah. And Ben Johnson's a great coordinator. He's proved that, but it takes time to develop chemistry with bringing in new coordinators. And still, Caleb Williams only in his 2nd year. I don't think they got that much better overall, and they weren't really that good last year. So I thought the line should be more around 6.5 for them, but I don't see the Bears doing good next year. They haven't proved it yet to me, so until they do, I'll just keep thinking that they're going to be a bad football franchise.
Yep. All right, next one. And I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this because I know how you feel about them typically. Cincinnati Bengals. Over under 9.5 wins.
This one's gross because the organization itself sucks. I'm sorry, Bengals fans. They don't treat their players right, or they don't know how to act, like signing and players. They always start slow. It doesn't matter who they play, and they always play shitty teams to start the year. And they play shitty teams to start the year this year, so I'm scared. But we know what Joe Burrow can do. We know what this offense is capable of. We know the talent they have. They got to get at least 10 wins in my book. So I have the over here. I can't say a Joey Burrow-led team gets less than 10, even with how bad they could be and how bad their defense is and all the losses. I still think they find a way to will games out, and they right at the end they probably get hot again. So
yeah. Damn it, man! I just want one of us to disagree just one time, but I had them at 10 wins, right on the dot. I agree with you. I just there's no way they start slow 5 years in a row, man. There's no freaking way, and we do this every year. They have such an easy schedule to start out with. I'm like, there's no way they start out as bad as they did last year. No way. I'm confident in Joey Burrow this year. I think he feels like he has something to prove. Even though he had a great season last year, I think he was genuinely disappointed they didn't make the playoffs. And don't be surprised if he's in the MVP talks again next year, because I think he's kind of in a prove it year. And I think he also understands that his defense is not what they need to be. So he has to, bring those shootouts again that we love to see. So, all right, well, let's go to the Cleveland Browns, 5.5 wins. I believe one of the lowest lines I saw, if not the lowest.
It's the Browns. I think they're great defensively, but it's hard to be a good football team when you have a rotating quarterback room or, kind of discrepancies at quarterback. What do you go with? Flacco's proven that he can, play good for this team, for the Browns, but he's old in age. Shadur played good in the preseason, but a couple of rookies,
He's
him
number
and
4 on
Dylan
the
Gabriel.
depth chart right now.
Yeah, which I don't understand either. But they just signed Huntley, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so
Doesn't make sense. Throw another one in there.
Yeah, it's difficult to be a successful team when you're splitting reps in practice, you're splitting reps potentially in games. So I think the Browns kind of know that this is going to be another year where, fortunately, they can't really compete, and that's just because of the offensive side of the ball. Because I'd be frustrated if I was the Browns defense because they hold teams, low, but they just never get rewarded for it. So I have them under 5.5. I don't think they're going to have a very good season.
Jesus Christ, man. We might as well stop the podcast now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have them at 3 wins. Well, I think they're one of my lowest winning teams on this. I just don't see them being good for all the reasons you said. I don't think they've got their shit figured out at quarterback. I know like 2 receivers on their receiving core. I mean, I just think it's going to be a learning curve for their rookies. I like their defense, like you said, but that's really the only thing. And I feel like the Browns this year are going to panic and get rid of Stefanski, even though I don't think it's his fault.
Yeah.
So add that to their win total as well. So let's move on to your Dallas Cowboys at 8.5 wins.
We got the over. Always have to. And, we went 7-10 last year. And offensively, I think we made a lot of upgrades with the skill positions, especially getting Pickens, I think was huge. Re-signed Ferguson is big. I like Jadon Blue from Texas. I think he's going to be a Pollard-esque running back. I'm in the air about Sanders, and Javonte Williams. How will they perform in the running back room? I think if they can be shells of them former selves or not shells of their former selves, be back to that, how they played a couple years ago, they can be decent. If Dak plays healthy, I like our offense. I'm scared about our O-line. Don't really know how they're going to perform. They're pretty young now that we just lost Zach Martin. Defensively is a toss-up because what happens with Micah now? Does he play? Does he get paid? Does he get traded? You lost a lot of guys to injuries. You got guys coming back. But I think we can muster 9 wins, 9-10. I think we proved that last year with the Worcester team that we still can be competitive in games. So we're not going to be good, but we're not going to be that bad. So I think 8 or 9 wins, and I'm going to lean 9.
Okay. So this is our first disagreement. Yep. It's a good thing that we continue with the pod. Sorry, Kaden. I did have the under.
Yep.
I have them at the exact same record that they had last year. And it's not necessarily that I don't believe in the talent. I agree that I think that the offense did get better. It was more so the matchups. They play, you play the Eagles twice, you play the Commanders twice, you play the Packers, you play the Chiefs, you play the Chargers, you play the Broncos, you play the Lions. I mean, that's not an easy schedule. And that's what kind of more so scares me, especially, I hate to dog on your team, but I feel like, they do struggle against those tougher opponents. So that's what makes me worried about this team. It's not that I don't think the talent's there. I think it's just if they can get over that hump of beating those really solid teams, because the schedule for me was tough. So we'll see. I hope they prove me wrong. I want you to be happy.
Yeah. Me too, man. Me too, please. But no, that's a brutal. We got like a 4-week stretch of like you said, Chiefs, Eagles, Chargers, Lions, Packers, or something just gross.
Yeah, it's nuts. And I feel like they always do. Like, I feel like they always have this like easy start, and you're like, ooh, yeah, god damn, the Cowboys are 5-0 or something like that.
Yeah, and it's gone.
Yep. All right. Next one, my team now. Denver Broncos. You can dog on me now. 9.5 wins. Over under.
Well, I can't really dog on you because I think you guys have the top 3 defense in the NFL, and that doesn't lose games. And I think you added to a top 2 defense from last year and got even better. And so now your offense can play your game plan the whole season. You know, you're going to be in close games against good teams no matter what. And even when you're having bad games, it's going to be close and you're going to have winnable opportunities. And I think you build on where you were last year. And I think one good thing about the Broncos is you guys really didn't lose to worser teams last year. And I don't really see that happening again this year. So I have you guys over. I think your division could be tough. I think you have a decently tough schedule too next year, but 10 to 11 wins, I think, is where I see the Broncos around. I think 11 more so. I'm pretty confident in the way they play.
I am confident as well. I always get a little worried when I'm feeling confident going into a season, but it's hard not to when you have the defense we have. We, like you said, we added fuel to the fire on our defense. Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw are not like small acquisitions for your defense. I think those are 2 proven guys, an all-pro safety. I mean, it's getting scary on defense, and then you get Barron as well. It's gonna be, this defense is just ridiculous. And then I actually really like what we did in terms of offense. We have 2 solid options now at running back. You know, we took a chance on RJ Harvey, who I like a lot. I think he could be really good. And then you also have J.K. Dobbins, who I think has been underrated a little bit in terms of what he can do when he's healthy. That's a big if. But when he is healthy, he can do damage to the game. So I think having that 2-headed in the backfield might be nice. Put a little less pressure on Bo Nix because we really didn't have a running game last year. So that would be nice to add. And then you also add the addition of Evan Ingram if he can stay healthy as well. You know, this offense is better, I think. So, and the offensive line last year was really good. I think a lot of people didn't really talk about that. So I agree with you. I had them at 11 wins. It feels weird to say that out loud, but I think they could challenge some really good teams this year. So I'm feeling confident about what the Denver Broncos could do. All right, let's go to the Detroit Lions.
I felt their line was a little bit disrespectful here, honestly.
Yeah, 10.5.
You felt, for a team that won 15 last year in the regular season,
I think
right?
so,
14
yeah.
or 15. So, and you can argue that losing the coordinators is a big thing, but if you look at the fine print last year, the Eagles got 2 new coordinators, offensive and defensive. They won the Super Bowl, right?
Yep.
So if you're knocking them 4.5 wins because of new coordinators, I don't agree with you there. But I think the Lions didn't lose much, and they're still super talented on offense. They still got all their studs, and they're still going to bully teams that aren't as good as them. So I think 10.5 is very low. I think maybe I'd be more debatable over a 12.5 line on which way I'd go, but I think 10.5 is an easy over.
I 100% agree. I think they kind of undersold the entire NFC North, if I'm being honest, which I thought was like kind of hilarious considering what they did last year.
Yeah.
You had like 2 teams with 14 wins and another with like 11, I want to say. So it's definitely doable that 3 teams can get over 10 wins. So, anyways, but yeah, I think they're underselling the Detroit Lions as well. I think Jared Goff had one of his best seasons we've ever seen last season. And like you said, I don't give a shit about the coordinators being lost. I think they'll be just fine. I love Ben Johnson. I love what he did as a coordinator, but like, why was he so great? Because he had trick plays? I'm just kidding. But like, seriously, I mean, like, I think they'll be just fine. I think Jared Goff's the leader of this team. I think he knows what he wants, and I think any coordinator that comes in with Jared Goff, I think will understand like how to get his strengths. And I think Dan Campbell has done a really good job of setting the tone, and I think he'll do that with his coordinators as well. So I'm not worried about what this team will do. I think Aiden Hutchinson coming back is going to be huge for this Detroit team. I think a lot of people forget, especially when I'm looking at this line, how many guys this Detroit Lions team lost on defense last year and how much better they could have been last year if they hadn't lost all those guys on defense. Because they were that good last year in the regular season without those guys. So I think getting those guys back, I'm not worried about this team whatsoever. Let's go to our next team, which is the Green Bay Packers, staying within the NFC North.
I think
9.5 wins.
Yeah, I think a lot of points can transfer over from the lines that we just made. Like they undersold this division. The Packers are a very solid team. They've proven that, and they've added weapons on offense a little bit, receiving wise. So I'm more confident in the receiving core. They got a young defense that I still like. They lost a couple of their vets, but I still think, barring a tough division, there's still a 10-win team, 10-11-win team. So I have the over for the Packers as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I also have the Packers on the over. Like you just said, I think they undersold the Packers as well. Very tight race for me. I had Detroit at 14 wins. I had Green Bay at 12. I think Green Bay, if Jordan Love can stay healthy, is going to be really good this year. They were as good as they were last year with, oh my God, I'm blanking on his name, Malik Willis getting thrown in there from time to time. So if Jordan Love has a start to finish really good year, I really like what this Packers team could do. They're really young, good on defense, good on offense. I think they could make some noise, even in the postseason. So I really like what they are capable of this year. So, all right, let's go to a very interesting team coming off of last year, the Houston Texans.
I think this was another line that was spot on for me. This was tough, really tough, honestly. And it went down to, is CJ Stroud going to bounce back from his sophomore slump? Mixon's injured. They got Nick Chubb. How is he going to perform on offense? Is the defense going to be able to fly to the ball? I like their defense. I really like their coaching staff. And it came down to the division they played in for me, because they play in a cakewalk of a division and they're going to win their division. And they should win the division with more than 9.5 wins. So that's why I have the over for the Texans. I could see it being a close line, but I just don't see them losing to a lot of worse teams. And I think CJ Stroud has a better year this year. Nico Collins back too. So
I 100% agree. Yeah. I actually went over for that sole region. I think CJ Stroud's going to have a comeback year. I think he has to. I think he struggled last year. I mean, we talked about it a lot, but I think he's gonna look back at last season and be thankful for it. I think he learned a lot about himself and a lot about this team this year. I think, like you said, he has a coach. He has a support system within the coaches to bounce back and make it a good year this year. I think it was really hard for him to have Stephon Diggs go down and Nico Collins go down. And really not have anybody to rely on other than Tank Dell. So I think that I don't think they could be worse than they were last year. I mean, they didn't look good in really any game, and they still had 9-10 wins. I don't think they look that bad every game. So I definitely have the over for the Houston Texans. All right, let's go to Indianapolis Colts.
I got the under for the Colts. Their line was 7.5, and I'm just not confident in this team overall. I just don't really know what their identity is, what they want to do next year. They have a tougher schedule, so I don't believe in them. They're injury prone across the board, so for me, I don't have them winning that many games.
Neither do I. I don't believe in this team. They actually have one of the worst records I have on my list. I have them at only 4 wins, which seems really weird, but going through the schedule, there's not a lot of teams that I'm like, I don't think they're better than that team. And I still think there's weirdness within the quarterback situation. They still haven't figured that out. Anthony Richardson goes down again. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I don't really know. because he's so inconsistent. One game he looks like he could be the next Cam Newton, and the next he looks like he's Zach Wilson all over again. So it's really hard to know with him if he's really has potential or not. Feels like every time we start to see maybe a little bit, he gets injured again. So I think they need to figure that out before anything, but I I just don't see this team being very good this year. Which is kind of funny because last year, I mean, they almost made playoffs. Jacksonville Jaguars.
You and I probably agree on this one. We don't believe in Trevor Lawrence. We don't believe in the Jags. Maybe you switched up, but I have the under for them. I don't like this Jacksonville team very much, and I know they've been to playoffs a couple times in the last couple of years, but I just think they've been on kind of a little downward slide ever since they had that good year. So I'm gonna go with the under on the Jags.
So typically, this is like being hypocritical, Hunter, for me, because I am not a Trevor Lawrence believer at all. I 100% agree with you. Some tell me they're gonna be better this year. I don't know why. I don't think they're making a playoffs, but I still think they are over the 7.5 win mark. Whether that's 8 wins, whether that's 9 wins, I think 9 is their cap. But I think they win a few more this year, and I think that's due to another really breakout year by Brian Thomas Jr. I think Travis Etienne, even though he looked horrible last year, I think he'll step up a little bit better. Tank Bigsby, we know can step up. So I think they'll have some bright spots on offense. I think their defense is still solid. I'll be very curious to monitor how the Travis Hunter situation goes, but I think they're in a weak division. I think that they'll pick up wins against the Colts and the Titans, and I think that they'll just sneakily get those kind of easy wins and get over that 7.5 win mark. It's not that I like believe in this team. It's just I think they're gonna sneak over it. So, all right. Kansas City Chiefs at 11.5 wins.
This is pretty gross for me because I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the word I have written next to this, and I'm like, why would you do that? Because every time you've hated on the Chiefs, every time I've hated on the Chiefs, they always prove me wrong pretty much, except for a couple of Super Bowls, except for last year, the Super Bowl. But I have them under 11.5. I have them at 11. And I think that we've finally seen a little bit of a fall off, and their defense has played exceptional, but their offense, I think, doesn't really continue to get better. They're starting to get up there in age, and they have a tough schedule this year, and I think that was probably the key swing for me. They play a lot of really solid teams. They play the top of the AFC. They play their division's going to be tough. So 11-6 is where I have them at. I would absolutely not be surprised if they went out and went 16-1, right? But for once, I'm just gonna go under. It's just what the gut told me. I don't know why. It's probably pretty gross to look at, but it's where I have them at.
I have them over, which is really surprising because they have a really tough schedule, like you said. They play the Bills. Obviously, they play their division. The Eagles, the Commanders, the Ravens, the Lions. You look at that and you're like, how in the fuck is this team going over? But it's like, how can you not go over when you've seen what they've done against those types of teams for the last however many years? I mean, their schedule wasn't easy last year. They went 15-2. They always seem to somehow, some way figure it out. And it's like, I don't understand how they could get worse from what the team was last year. I think Xavier Worthy makes a jump. You have Rashee Rice. He's back. We'll see how Travis Kelce is. I mean, Noah Gray maybe steps up. Who knows? But I still I really think this defense is really solid. It's not like they lost a lot of guys.
Yeah.
I think the biggest question for me is if their rookie tackle can step up. Because if he can, I think this O-line could be in a good position. After losing Joe Thuney, I mean, that was a huge loss for the Chiefs. So we'll see how that affects them. But if this rookie steps up, that allows for somebody else to be able to move into a guard position and maybe save that Chiefs O-line. So I know I said this about the Super Bowl last year as well, but regular season I haven't seen it yet. So until they prove me wrong, I'm not going against it. I'm going over. All right, let's go with the Las Vegas Raiders, which is 6.5.
I got the under. I don't think they're gonna be very good next year. I like, some of the pieces they added. Obviously, Genty, we'll see how he performs at the next level. See how Geno Smith does on this offense. Pete Carroll, coach. So we'll see. I think it's going to be more of an experimental year kind of for the Raiders. I think they'll be competitive in games, but I don't really see them being too good. I don't see them being a 7-win team, especially not in the West. So, or the NFC, yeah. So I have them under 6.5.
I also have the under. There's been way too much talk about the Raiders being good next year.
Yeah.
I think they're forgetting about the defense side of the ball. And then I bring up the defense, and their only word to me is Max Crosby. And I'm like, oh, so 1 out of 11 guys makes up your entire defense. Got it. Okay. No, that's not how that works. Yeah, I don't believe in the Raiders defense. And I think in a division where you have the Broncos, Chiefs, and Chargers who all have solid offenses, and also very solid defenses, may I add, I think they're not gonna do very well. I like Geno Smith to this team. I think he's better than what they had. I like Ashton Genty. I'm very curious to see how he does in his first year, but I still don't think it's enough. I think they need more. Pete Carroll will be interesting to see what he does, but as of now, I don't think this team is making any sort of leaps. All right, let's go to the Los Angeles Chargers. Speaking of the Chargers,
for them, they're at 9.5 was projected. I have the over. They won 11 games last year, and I think they're going to play better offensively this year than they did last year. Now that they've been under Harbaugh for longer, I think they're going to fine tune that. I think they're going to let Herbert play a little bit more free this year, which I think is what they need. Defensively, they might not have gotten much better. They probably even got a little bit worse, but I said they're a solid team. Any Harbaugh team is going to be efficient. And so 10, I think, is 10-11 is probably where they're going to be sitting at next year.
Yeah, I also have the over here. I had them at 11 wins. I think similar teams to last year, but I agree. I think their offense gets better. I think adjusting to Harbaugh will make them better. I believe they have like Najee Harris now at the running back. I think their running backs weirdly year after year, like they change, but they seem to stay like equal to me, like in terms of talent wise. So, yeah, I think the Chargers will be just fine. And I think they'll be another solid team. I think the biggest question for them is postseason. I don't think it's a matter of getting the postseason. I think it's what they do in the postseason in year 2 with Harbaugh. So, be curious with that. All right, this one's interesting. I'm very curious to see what you think about the Los Angeles Rams this year.
So the last 2 years, I believe the Rams lines have been pretty low, like 4 to 5-ish wins, and they've over exceeded their line by a lot.
Yeah.
And so
I
then this
believed in the
year,
Rams last year,
it's
and
9.5.
Did
Yeah,
not like it.
No, so we shit on the Rams last year, and they overperformed, and they played great. And this year their line's at 9.5, and maybe I think I'm just gonna keep doubting the Rams. I have the under for the Rams, and I think it's due to they lost some defensive players. Matt Stafford's getting up in age. The Niners are going to be good again next year, and I think just a lot of effects are just leaving me to lean towards like 7 to 8 wins for the Rams.
Yeah.
And I probably shouldn't doubt them because we know who their coach is and we know who their quarterback is, but I have them under this year.
I have them just under. I think this team consistently is a like 9-win team. 9-10 win team. I think that's like their cap, and I think that's why the line is where it's at. I love Matthew Stafford, and I like always will. I just think he's a gunslinger who is got ice in his veins. You can never give up on him. And I also love Sean McVay. I would just like to say that there has been the last few years, everyone has doubted this team. They usually get off to a slow start. Everyone kind of gives up on them, and Sean McVay continues to will his team into the playoffs. He's a very good coach. Like I don't think there's any doubts about that. So I think it's hard for me to say under, but I have them under at 9-8. So all right. Miami Dolphins, 7.5 wins.
This one was also pretty tough to me because I don't like the Dolphins next year, but
They're unpredictable.
they beat teams that are worse than them usually. So, they'll get some good wins just because of that, just because they don't play down. But they're like the Cowboys, right? They don't beat teams that are better than them. And then you also have to look at the temperature they're playing at. If they play any cold games, just chalk it up. It's a loss. But they actually have a favorable schedule weather-wise for the most part this year. So they're probably right over 8-win team, I think is fair to say. I'm not giving them any flowers saying they're going to be any kind of playoff contending team this year.
So you had them over?
I have them on the over, yeah.
So I had them on the under. I don't believe in this team. I don't know. After last year, I just really don't.
Yeah.
I just feel like they're injury prone. It's hard for me to believe in them. If they stay healthy, I think 100% they could be over. But I don't see how Tua stays healthy. I mean, I know that's awful to say, but he just hasn't stayed healthy. So I have him right at 6 wins. I have the under. So all right, going to our next team, the Minnesota Vikings, another interesting team at 9.5 wins. They had a great season last year when I think a lot of people weren't really expecting it, especially after JJ McCarthy went down. I think they had like the second best record in the NFC or third or something like that. It's pretty crazy for what they had, but 9.5 wins over under. What you got?
I have the over for the Vikings, and I feel it's almost a little bit disrespectful of a line. They won 14 games last year. I know, does Sam Darnold really add 5 wins? I'm not trying to discredit Sam Darnold. I thought he had an awesome season last year. He played really well, but right, it's all the other players around it. Their defense is good. Their skill players are good. Their O-line's good. And I don't think, switching quarterbacks makes them a 5-loss worst team. They might have overperformed last year, but I still think they're going to win 10 or 11. I think they have all the pieces there. It'll be interesting to see how the quarterback room plays, but I still think that they're just a solid team overall.
Yeah, and I hear you, and you're kind of making me rethink what I'm about to say, but I don't know, like their schedule is not easy either. I mean, you've got the NFC North, which I don't have to say. I mean, you got the Lions and Packers that you got to play twice. Then you got the Bengals, you've got the Eagles, you got the Commanders, the Cowboys. I mean, Seattle's could be tough. Chargers tough. I don't know. The schedule is what scares me the most, I think, especially with a quarterback who technically is a rookie. And I like understand like why you're like, is a quarterback really gonna make them 5 less losses? But I think it does matter when it comes down to close games. And I think they are playing talent where there are going to be a lot more closer games. Because I feel like last year there was a lot of games where they got up pretty big and they kind of had to just cruise. I mean, like, I think about that San Francisco 49ers game. Like, they killed the 49ers last year. Like, that was insane. But we'll see. I think it wouldn't surprise me if they go over. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if they're 11-win team again. But I'm nervous about what JJ McCarthy will do this year.
Yeah, I get that too, because unpredictability and the Michigan system's way different than the NFL level. But I just Aaron Jones, Jay Jettis, Hawk, like it's just a lot of other talent around, right? So it's tough. But
and I'd like to say too, like I'm going under, but I have them at 9 wins. So it's not like I don't believe in this team. It's more so I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I'm right on the brink with them.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to New England Patriots. I'm just glad we started disagreeing with each other. It'd be a pretty boring podcast if we. New England Patriots, what you got?
I like everything the Patriots did this offseason. Vrabel,
Yep.
some of the skill guys they added. 8.5 still too high for me. I'm sorry. I don't think they're that
Ooh.
skilled yet. I think they have the pieces, but I still think they're going to need some time to input all the pieces and develop and figure out exactly where they need to go. I love the direction the Patriots are heading, but I don't see them jumping this much, in 1 year like that. So they're probably a 7-win team. I like Drake May. I'm confident in Drake May, but I'm still just right under 8.5 for me.
So this one scares me because I have them over.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my bold take team. This is this year's Commanders team.
Mm-hmm.
This is to me, this is kind of similar. Young quarterback, you bring in a new coach, you bring in all these kind of veterans with, Stephon Diggs, you bring in the new guys with Travion Henderson and, Kyle Williams, and this team is starting to look exciting. You also get Will Campbell as well, so it's like this team has potential to be really
Oh, yeah.
good. But they're still, like you said, they're still assembling everything. So can Vrabel kind of sort it all out?
Mm-hmm.
If there's a coach that I believe in that can do it,
Yep.
similarly to what I'm blanking on the Commander's coach name. Please help me. I literally can
Dan
see him.
Quinn. Dan Quinn.
Thank you, Dan Quinn. I
Yeah.
literally saw the backwards hat in my
Yep.
head. I saw the
Mm-hmm.
beard. I saw everything, but I just could not think of his name. Dan Quinn. If there's somebody that can do what Dan Quinn did with the Commanders last year, I think it's Vrabel. So I'm believing in the Patriots team.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let Seth know because he'll kill me.
Yep.
Or he'll give me shit. So
Yep.
all right. Next team, New Orleans Saints.
Man, I think it's gonna be the worst team in football next year.
I do too.
And I think I think they might have one win, maybe two. And I don't know what the quarterback room is doing. I don't know what the skill positions are doing. I don't know what the defense is. I just don't know what's going on. I think they know that they don't know what's going on. I think it's just give me some draft picks. Let's figure out some guys that might, be able to help us in the future, and just take our losses because they're not going to be good.
And this team is awful. Like I genuinely don't even see the direction with this team.
Yeah.
I'm still shook with who they took in the second or third round.
Bro, Shadur would have been a million times better, bro.
And I'm not even that big of a Shadur fan.
Yeah,
but Tyler Shuck or whatever, 25-year-old. I'm like, what? Yeah, it's I don't. There's this team's under, and it's watch them make the playoffs. All right, New York Giants.
Oh man, I have the under on the Giants as well. Maybe this is a little bit division rivalry. I don't like the Giants very much, but I'm gonna bring up the point of the quarterback room and which direction that I don't know which direction they're gonna go with. Obviously, you bring in Russ, you bring in Jameis, you draft Jackson Dart. So, kind of where do you want to develop Dart? Do you want to let Russ run the offense, figure it out? I like Malik Neighbors. I like Tracy, the running back.
Yeah, Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah. I think their defense is making improvements. However, I think they still play in a pretty tough division, and I still not fully sold on their quarterback. So I have them under. It's a tight line. I could see them get to 6, but I think I have the under still for them.
I have the under as well. I think their defensive line will be scary, really scary. But I think that's going to be the highlight of their team. I like Malik Neighbors and Tyrone Tracy, like you said, but you can't just have a one receiver team. It's pretty easy to shut down. And I think when you have 4 quarterbacks, like you said, it's just tough to really have some sort of direction. And overall, I don't mind Dable, but it's probably time for them to move on and part ways. And for him to go back maybe as a coordinator. So I just think it's is not going to be good for the Giants. So I've got the under as well. All right, going to the New York Jets.
This one was actually pretty tough for me because I think the Jets are way
Me
better
as well.
now that Rodgers is gone, right?
Me too.
But I like Fields, and I'm glad he's going to get an opportunity to shine on this team. And I had to decide if Fields, pushes them over to me. They have a good defense. They have a good running back room. Maybe I'm talking myself out of the under because that's what I gave him was the under because it's the Jets at the end of the day, and their franchise hasn't proven to me that they can put the players and the pieces and coach them in the right places yet. So I do have the under, but I could definitely see Fields leading them, to 7 or 8 wins. But I'll go under.
I went under as well, and pretty much for the same reasons. I mean, like, I think this team has potential. Like, I really do. I just think at the end of the day, it's about execution, and I just don't believe in this Jets team to execute. I think Aaron Glenn will do a much better job at coaching, and I think Fields will do a much better job at, QB and managing what this team has in terms of talent. But I think I don't know. That first year is always a little hard, especially in an organization that might not give you the resources that some other organizations will. So I think there's going to be some growing pains. I think there's going to be some games they probably should have won and they lose. So I think at the end of the day, they're probably like right at that 6-7 win mark, and I'm going with the six wins mark. So all right, going to the Philadelphia Eagles. We got 6 teams left, so we're almost there.
I got the over for the Eagles. I can't. It was 11.5. I don't see the defending Super Bowl champs getting worse than that. Like, I think they win close games. They execute well. I don't really see them having a Super Bowl honeymoon. I think they're going to come out the gates playing well again. And they do have a tough schedule, but they're still a 12-13 win team to me.
Yeah, I just don't see how this Eagles team really takes that big of a step back. I have them at a 13 win team. I think it's over. I know there's concerns about the defense losing so many guys. Here's the thing though, like they drafted Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean last year, who were 2 of the best defensive rookies and showed a lot of potential, and now you're going to elevate their role. If I'm the Eagles, I'm excited about that. I think that's great because you're not overpaying some corners on your team. So I'm excited about to see like what they can do. I feel like the Eagles always also just find these depth guys on their defense. Still have Jalen Carter. Still have oh my gosh, Brown. No, what's his name? Zach. What's his name? Fucking Christ. He's a linebacker.
Yeah,
I can't think of his last name. Anyways, they have a solid defense. I'm not worried about the Eagles. I think they'll be just fine. All right, here we go. Here's a fun one. Pittsburgh Steelers.
When was the last time the Steelers didn't have a winning record? Early 2000s, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Every year, I don't think they're going to do it, right? I think they're going to be a bad team, and they find ways with bad players to still get over, 9 wins. And I don't believe in Rodgers, man. I don't believe in the offense that they have this year. And Tomlin's a great coach, and we've seen him do it with, a potato chip before, and like just bun players. But this year is not the year they do good. And I think they go under 500, and I think their streak is broken. It's just Rodgers and Metcalf, pretty much. You lost Najee Harris. You lost Pickens. Your defense is still solid, but I don't believe in the Steelers for once. So
I don't either.
Under.
I don't either. I think they're going under. I think this is the year Tomlin gets fired. Crazy to say, but I think this is the year the Steelers finally are like, we're doing something different. I don't think Aaron Rodgers was the move for this Steelers team.
Absolutely.
Don't know why they waited out for him. I don't know what they saw at New York Jets that really said, I want to go get Rodgers right now. Just doesn't make sense to me. I'm not excited about this team or to watch this offense. I think this offense is going to be really painful to watch. And I don't I don't think the Steelers are going to have a good season this year.
All the quarterbacks they could have drafted that they passed on. They could have got a guy like Cooper Rush, as a couple of guys they could have traded for relatively cheap that I think would have been way better.
Yep. Even a guy like Jared Stidham on the Broncos,
right?
Like literally anyone.
Yeah. So, and then
Trey Lance, giving him a shot. I don't give a fuck.
I think Kenny Pickens would have been better if they would have kept on to him. But Pickett, but he's gone to the Eagles. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of players I would have rather given a shot than letting Rodgers play. But he's still Rodgers at the end of the day. Maybe we'll see what he can do. But we're not firm believers here.
All right, San Francisco 49ers. Is this a bounce back year?
Yeah, I think comfortably for them. I think that last year was just a fluke of injuries. I've not ever seen a team get injured that bad. Like everyone and their backup were getting injured for the Niners. That was insane. This team is so talented. They have all the pieces. I think they're going to come back. A little bit of the bad taste in their mouth. Vengeance tour. They're a 12-13 win team in my book. So I think they probably dominate their division, and if they can stay healthy, they will be very good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm over as well. I think this team is they're going to be back. I think last year was a weird year. Just was not the Niners from the start. They had a bunch of injuries. I think this team truly showed how much Christian McCaffrey value was. Just like to throw that out there. How bad the Niners were without McCaffrey. Not trying to throw shade at like a 2023 MVP race or anything like that. But no, I think it'll really prove to them. So I have them at 12 wins. Okay. Going to the Seattle Seahawks. This one might stir up some stuff, so we'll see.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about the Seahawks team, man, but I thought they were pretty bad last year, and then I watched them rattle off a bunch of wins, with an injured team. I have the over for the Seahawks. I think they get to 9. I don't know. I still kind of believe in them. Sam Darnold, I think, is going to have probably another decent year. It's going to be interesting to see what he does in a new environment with a new team, but I think he's a good player. He's proved that last year, obviously. And I think the Seahawks run game is going to be better than it was last year. The defense is always solid. So I think they can get to 9 wins.
Yeah, I think this team is better than some people are giving them credit for. I think second year of McDonald, I think they'll have a little bit more of identity, which is kind of weird considering all the change that has happened with the team. But in a weird way, I don't think they got worse. Like, I think Cooper Kupp is kind of similar realm as Geno Smith. I think, or Cooper Kupp. Sam Darnold is a similar realm as Geno Smith and, Cooper Kupp and Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think, those two are kind of similar to Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf in the terms of talent. So I'm not like, I don't think this team necessarily got any worse, and I think they were a solid team last year. They could have easily snuck in the playoffs, so don't be surprised if the Seahawks sneak in this year with a little bit more experience on their defense, as well as like in the backfield and stuff, and their O-line. So I think the Seahawks will be just fine. I think they're kind of one of my surprise teams on the NFC. All right. Going next to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
We got the over. We believe in Baker Mayfield. Line 9.5. They might get 6 wins just in their division, like 6 free wins, right? Their division sucks, and they're going to dominate that division. And we've seen them hold their own against, upper talented teams. They can at least keep within games, but they're a 10-11 win team in my book. That any team led by Baker Mayfield can get you there. I think their defense is very solid. I think they'll get guys back healthy this year. And if they can stay healthy, then they'll probably just dominate their division and get to 11 wins where I'm put them at.
I think my biggest question with this team is how their defense will be. But offensively, I'm not like, I agree. I think they're going to dominate their division. But if this defense can step up, I think this team could be really dangerous. Like really dangerous. Surprise! I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. They were my surprise bet. To So the odds were really really crazy on them for Super Bowl. So I
Okay.
did Tampa Bay Bucks versus Buffalo
Nice.
Bills.
What?
Crazy Super
Yeah,
Bowl, but
that'd be sick.
we've seen weirder things. So
Yep.
if it hits, I'll be letting you know. I think I'll win like $800 or
Sweet.
something crazy
Nice.
like that. So but yeah, so I'm not saying that I believe in them actually to make it to the Super Bowl, but I do think they're gonna make some noise this year. So all right. Two more teams. We got Tennessee Titans, Cam Ward's first year. How will they do?
I have the under 5.5 for the Titans, even with Cam Ward, and a little bit more identity for the Titans, but we get to see him play. We get to see all the other additions of the Titans, see how much better they got. I don't think they got too much better, honestly, overall. I like the direction they're going, the future that the Titans have. However, I still don't think they're that good of a team, and I think they'll probably continue to struggle to find ways to win games next year.
I agree. I don't think they have the talent around Camp Ward to be good enough. Um, I think they've tried, but I don't think it's going to be good enough. And I think that's more of an organizational thing, more so than it is like a talent standpoint. Just because like, do you even know who their coach is?
No, not the top.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So I'm just I don't know.
yeah.
I don't really believe in this team from an organizational standpoint. I think Cam Ward is thrown into kind of a bad position starting out. I think he'll do fine. Like I think he'll show kind of flashes, kind of like Drake May did last year, like where he had like really good season, even though the team didn't do very well, you know. So we'll see. I don't believe in the Titans.
No.
So under for me. All right, and our last team is the Washington Commanders at 9.5 wins.
Another line that I thought was really good. I thought it was actually kind of tough to decide because are the Commanders going to have a sophomore slump? Right?
Yep.
Is Jan Daniels going to fall back? They lost McLaurin probably for a while, if not the season. Who knows what really going on there? But is Debo going to be able to step up? Our team's going to be able to figure out the Commanders now, like we've seen with a lot of teams that have one really good year right away.
Yep.
This is tough for me. I still have the over, but I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year.
I agree, but I have the under. I have them right at 9 wins, sneaky in the playoffs. I think they're good enough to make playoffs, but I don't think that. I think they're going to be, and I hate to make these comparisons, but I really do think they're going to be a very similar team to that Houston Texans team. I think the only difference is in that they are in a better division than the Texans were. But I think in terms of like struggle, sloppiness, I think the Commanders will kind of struggle a little bit from last year to this year. I think teams will start to kind of figure out Jaden Daniels. I don't know. I just Jaden Daniels' style to me as a quarterback could be kind of messed with by defenses similar to how they messed with CJ Stroud mentally last year. And I think that's why I have the under on them. So I think they'll still be a solid enough team to make the playoffs, get 9 wins, but I don't have them as high as they were last year. So all right, any other comments? Anything you want to talk about in terms of over under wins? Excited for the NFL season.
I think it's going to be a good season. There's a lot of good matchups. I did the playoff predictor too, and I was like, oh, that's a good game. Oh, that's a good game. There's like a couple weeks where it's just all fire
No,
games.
it's
So
crazy.
I'm excited for this year. I think the top of each conference is going to be really tight. I think there's probably 8 teams that all could compete on each side. So it's going to be a good year. I'm excited to see MVP race this year. I think that's going to be super tight. So I did a bet too, and so It's Josh Allen MVP, Aiden Hutchinson comeback player of the year, and
Oh, that's a good one.
Jamar Chase offensive player of the year. 3-leg parlay, 10 to win 2,400. So
damn.
come on, baby.
I mean, it all could happen. It all could definitely happen.
I like that one.
Yeah, let me tell you my bets. I've got Super Bowl. Yeah, that one's crazy. I don't even want to say that one yet. We'll start with the easy ones. I've got, like I said, Bills, Buccaneers. That would pay out $280. And then I've got Patrick Mahomes, regular season MVP. That would pay out $50. Todd Bowles, coach of the year, $180.
Goated.
Aiden Hutchinson, comeback player of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And then my last one, which is crazy if it hits, like absolutely insane. Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning the Super Bowl, and the regular season MVP goes to Baker,
bro,
for $805.
God, I'd pay an extra 800 if that happened. That'd be freaking awesome.
If Baker wins MVP, period, I will actually be shitting myself.
Yeah. Holy, that'd be crazy. That dude would have to have like 6,000 yards for them to give him MVP, but I'm here for it. Might put one on the Panthers now to make the playoffs. I wonder if their odds are for that.
I don't know.
Panthers Jets Super Bowl. Panthers win $6 million. I'm sure the odds are terrible. Like probably getting 10K.
Yeah.
Like a $10 bet if that happened.
Yeah.
That'd be nuts.
All right, brother. Well, appreciate you hopping on. It's fun. We're gonna be doing live. I feel like this is easier, and it'll allow us to get our reactions out quicker too after games during the season. So super excited to have these pods after Monday Night Football and get that going, because this is the best time of the year, man. Best time of the year. All right, man. As always, stay logical and that nonsense.